Medical debt continues to be a big problem for so many of us. An estimated 100 million Americans collectively have nearly $200 billion in medical debt. That's according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. More states are looking to take action on this. That includes things like considering creating medical debt relief programs and requiring more transparency around the cost of care.
Transparency and cost isn't going to stop people from being mired in medical debt. It may allow people to shop around a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we have to really tackle the cost of healthcare at its core, and the fact that lack of insurance is a critical component of why people end up with medical debt in the first place.
Another thing states are looking at is lowering interest rates on medical debt. A law recently signed in Colorado, for example, lowers the maximum interest rate for medical debt to 3%. The state joins Arizona in having one of the lowest medical debt interest rates in the country.
I can't emphasize enough the importance of refining our hospital financial assistance requirements at the federal and state level. I love all of these other medical debt relief efforts that are happening, canceling medical debts, improving the interest rates, and even price transparency. But we have to prevent it before it even happens. And that's where hospital financial assistance comes in.
Bernetta Haynes is with the National Consumer Law Center, and she says Connecticut is a good model of a state that's focused on hospital financial assistance. It requires hospitals to screen patients up front to see if they're eligible for financial assistance. No matter where you live, you can ask for a copy of a hospital's financial assistance policy up front. It'll explain how to apply for help.
Hey there, Southwest Florida. I'm meteorologist Lauren Petrelli with Fox 4. Starting off nice and dry for the beginning of your Friday. Right around 1 o'clock, scattered storms and showers really bubble up, especially up and down I-75 and Alligator Alley. Becoming more widespread around 5, 6 o'clock when you finally head home from work, and dissipating around 9 o'clock this evening. We're dry overnight, dry for the first half of your Saturday as we head into the holiday weekend. Could see a spotty shower or two, but really it's scattered storms that will move through overnight, especially over Lake Okeechobee. And we have a very similar forecast on your Sunday. 3, 4 o'clock, seeing a couple of scattered storms and showers. Highs each and every day going to be in the upper 80s, low 90s. Monday going to be the driest day of your 3-day weekend. It's going to be mostly sunny with a high of 91 degrees. But as we wrap up the end of your work week, we're going to start to see storms increase Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Also, highs are going to increase into the low 90s.
Whether you have a home renovation like I have here, a finished home, even if you're renting, the summertime means you're going to see friends like this guy here, pests who have been sleeping for months, waking up and invading your living space. Well, we have 3 common summer pests, how to spot them and how to stop them.
Think of summer, lots of things come to mind. Swimming pools, barbecues, and bugs.
Well, we're coming into the summer months. What are some of the most common summer bugs that people are going to see from coast to coast?
The most common summer bugs for sure are ants, spiders, crickets, and cockroaches.
I invited Ben McAvoy, founder of Insect Tech Pest Solutions, to come check out my new renovation project to show me some common spots around the home that summer bugs love to target and how to prevent infestation. First, the kitchen, which is a favorite spot for...
Number 1 are interior roaches like German cockroaches. They're the little ones that are looking for food, shelter, and they reproduce at very high rates. And so this kitchen environment gives them a really, really good habitat for that.
And would they be under the sink?
Absolutely.
Ben says to look for any gaps around the pipes or cracks in the wall, and if you do find any, it's an easy DIY fix.
You just want to use some silicone caulking and easily fill those cracks.
He says you can also use that foaming filler you can find at the hardware store if gaps are too big or if you find any hole.
Most bugs do not need a lot of room to fit through to get inside your home. In some cases, think as thin as a credit card.
Next, check your entryways, which can be inviting to spiders and crickets. And we all know how annoying those ninja cricket chirps can be.
Jimmy, I wanted to show you the gaps that you have around the door here, especially the one on the ground. So one thing that I wanted to recommend is either adjusting a door threshold that many homes have, or getting some weather stripping where you can put right inside these gaps. I mean, right here, if you can see the light, then it needs to be filled.
Another place bugs love to target is the bathroom. And it just so happens I had a major ant problem in mine.
If there's a moisture source, bugs are going to be attracted to that area. This right here is a great example of an ant infestation. Yeah. Them coming in looking for water.
For ants, he recommends calling the pros. The over-the-counter spray that I tried only works temporarily, and then they return, or worse.
Sometimes it can act like gas on a fire, where the ants actually spread to different parts of the home and create new colonies.
He says hiring a professional for ants is important because they can treat the insides of the walls of your home, which is a bit much for a DIY project.
A lot of bugs are living inside the wall voids in many cases. When you see ants that come into your home, a lot of times they are not coming from directly outside the home. They've already been living inside your home.
We're learning how to keep those pesky summer pests outside where they belong. I'm Jimmy Rhodes reporting.
From Southwest Florida, it's Fox 4 News at 5.
Hopefully that points to the urgency of the situation. And I say that knowing that there's not a quick fix, okay? It takes years to add inventory. But to pave the way for that, we need a sense of urgency in terms of addressing these issues so that over time.
An urgent situation that is all too familiar for Southwest Florida families trying to keep up with these rising rent prices to keep a roof over their heads. And we are taking a closer look at how dire it's become in the past couple of months. Thanks for trusting us here in Fox 4 News at 5. I'm Shari Armstrong. Also tonight, whether it be by land, air, or maybe even sea, here in Southwest Florida, the Memorial Day weekend rush is already underway, and we're expecting to see more people travel this weekend than we have seen since before the pandemic. So let's get you a check of your weather with Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls from our weather center. Hi, Katie.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. If you are getting an early start to your holiday travel plans, just a heads up, especially along 75 in Lee County, we are dealing with extremely heavy rainfall. And those storms, they are barely budging. Let's take a live look at some of those storms right now, as seen from the Fox 4 studios. So here we are. We're actually looking at a strong thunderstorm that is currently parked over I-75. So this is what it looks like from our perspective here in Cape Coral, where conditions remain dry. But farther inland, that is what we are currently facing. So let's start first our radar tour right here in North Fort Myers, crossing over the 41 bridges, seeing that area of heavy rainfall from Suncoast Estates into North Fort Myers. And again, these storms nearly stationary through downtown Fort Myers toward Buckingham and farther south down toward 6 Mile Cypress Slough, as well as Fiddlesticks Boulevard, seeing some very intense rainfall in the same spots where we saw that heavy rainfall yesterday. And we have more developing as we head through the rest of this evening. I'm timing that out for you next.
I'm housing reporter Caitlin Knapp for Fox 4. According to new data from Florida Gulf Coast University, Cape Coral is the #1 metro area when it comes to year-over-year rent increases. Shocking? Well, probably not for people who are struggling to find a place to live.
In the new rental index put together by FGCU, Florida Atlantic University, and the University of Alabama, the average rental is a little more than $2,300. It should only be around $2,000 based on rental history. Both of these prices do not include utilities. Dr. Shelton Weeks, a real estate professor at FGCU, says with the prices and your income, you could be considered either rent burden or severely rent burden. Severe, as in you're only making $56,000 in this case.
So if you make less than that and you're renting, then HUD would consider you severely rent burdened. You're spending more than 50% of your gross income on housing.
So what can be done to get prices down? Well, a state housing act signed by Governor Ron DeSantis back in March bans cities from putting rent caps in place, which Weeks agrees with. He does say the way he sees prices going down, simply making it easier for developers to build. In that same housing act, there are tax exemptions for developers, hoping to financially entice them.
According to Zillow, there are 104 rental homes and apartments on the market in Cape Coral. However, that's only for a place under $2,200 a month. In studio, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
From paying rent to paying your mortgage, what happens with the country's debt ceiling could impact housing. Our reporter Kat Sandoval explains.
The closer we get, the more realistic the possibility becomes that we have a full-blown disaster.
The warnings are dire, and for the biggest investment most people make in a lifetime, a default would make buying a house much more expensive. Mortgage rates are already climbing, and if there's a prolonged default, a Zillow analyst forecasts housing costs spiking by 22%. 30-year fixed-rate mortgages are predicted to soar to 8.4%. That's the highest since the early 2000s. In that scenario, experts advise waiting to buy a home.
So that might mean that you're going to continue renting and just invest a big portion of your money into the stock market.
But as buyers wait, the housing industry would take a hit. The Zillow analyst projects 23% fewer sales of existing homes in September compared to the no default scenario. As the debt ceiling negotiations drag on, experts advise consumers to prepare for the worst by tightening budgets and reducing debt.
Now's a time to harbor your resources, hold back on your discretionary spending, avoid that extra restaurant meal.
There is one small bright spot. Even in a prolonged default, Zillow's economists say the impact to home values would be modest, declining about 1% from current levels throughout February. Kat Sandoval, Scripps News, Chicago.
Well, new information this evening about a fatal shooting that deputies say was an attempted home invasion. It happened on Beverly Avenue in Port Charlotte Wednesday night, and now the sheriff's office tells us one of the people accused of breaking in actually was shot and killed. Deputies say someone shot another suspect, too. That person survived and is in the hospital. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office says 4 people attempted to break into the home. I want to show you this. We've got a look at 2 of the suspects. One is 18-year-old Leah Kirsten Jenis. The other is 25-year-old Ethan Mask, both now facing charges including aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. A 17-year-old was also named as a suspect, but their name has not been released. Well, now that the city of Punta Gorda has a contract to repair seawalls that were damaged by Hurricane Ian, we're starting to see equipment move into place just in time for Memorial Day. Take a look at this. You can see that barge carrying that large crane there. This is right in between the route from Punta Gorda Isles and Burnt Store Isles. The city reminds you, though, to be very careful around these, especially with the increased traffic we're expecting to see during the holiday weekend. There will be multiple barges in this area while those seawalls are repaired. And happening right now, a Fort Myers Beach staple is back open for the first time since Hurricane Ian. We love to see this. The Yucatan Beach stand on San Carlos Boulevard has been rocking since the doors opened at 11 this morning. 8 months after the hurricane, and they were able to get back up and running just in time for the Memorial Day weekend. Now, you still got some time to get over there since they're open from 11 to 7 every day, so get out and support local. But while the Yucatan Beach stand, well, it is a problem that plagues our state and our Southwest Florida counties, those pedestrian deaths that we have been reporting on statewide. We have almost seen 300 fatalities since the start of this year alone. I want you to invite you to look at this. We have highlighted Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties, where we've had 12 pedestrian fatalities already since the first of this year. More than 250 people have been involved in crashes in less than 5 months, pedestrians that is, and that is not just here. Kim Lafler breaks down new data showing an uptick in pedestrian fatalities across the United States.
National data shows pedestrian fatalities have increased by 18% since 2019. Georgia's rate is even higher, but officials say there are things people need to keep in mind anytime you're by a busy road. An oncoming car hit and killed a person on Turner Hill Road in DeKalb County around 5:20 Thursday morning. Investigators say the person's car was disabled and they were in the road when the crash happened. It's one common way officials say accidents like this can occur.
We ask that, the drivers pull off on the shoulder and pull off as far as you can go. If you find yourself in that situation too, it is best to stay inside of your car.
Georgia has one of the highest pedestrian fatality rates in the country. According to the latest data from the Governor's Highway Safety Administration, Georgia's pedestrian fatalities increased by nearly 58% from 2019 through 2022. According to GDOT, 84% of deaths occur overnight, and 95% happen outside of a crosswalk. Officials say it's important for pedestrians to always remain visible.
Make sure that you are paying attention to the road signs, the safety signs, when to cross, when not to cross, making sure that you use the crosswalks versus just darting out in the road. Being focused and paying attention, just like driving in a car. We want you to be focused, less distraction. Same thing when it comes to pedestrians and walking.
AAA says the increase could be due in part to more people getting outside and traveling following the pandemic, with Memorial Day travel numbers this year expected to surpass 2019.
AAA across the nation expects to rescue over 483,000 folks, right, just along for this Memorial Day weekend.
And these crashes don't have to happen at high speeds. According to GDOT, 9 out of 10 people will die if they're hit by a car going 40 miles per hour. DeKalb County Police say Thursday's fatal accident is under investigation. In Atlanta, Kim Luffler, Fox 5 News.
An inflation gauge closely watched by the Federal Reserve shows inflation bounced higher in April. The PCE price index, which measures a variety of goods and services, rose by 0.4% last month. It shows inflation is up 4.7% from a year ago. Higher inflation has more consumers using buy now, pay later loans, which are available at major retailers with just a few clicks. The standard buy now, pay later loan breaks up your cost into 4 payments over several weeks or even months. Consumer Reports recently analyzed some of the most popular apps. It says buy now, pay later can be beneficial during tough times, but says not all companies are doing enough to monitor for fraud.
Not all the companies have the same practice, recommended practice, for reaching out to the consumer immediately when fraud or other suspicious activity is detected.
CR would also like to see greater transparency regarding fees that rack up if consumers don't make payments on time. Loans often promote themselves as having no fees, but CR says that's not always the case.
Just Andrew Shipley, and behind me is the Caloosahatchee River. Many of us cross this river each and every day, but just upstream is Lake Okeechobee. Right now, Lake Okeechobee is seeing an blue-green algal bloom on its western side, and water on that western side, well, eventually ends up in the Caloosahatchee. Take a look at these aerial images shot by Ralph Arwood with the Colusa Waterkeeper Environmental Organization. You can see streaks of blue-green algae covering the surface of the lake just last week. That same day, NOAA's Sentinel satellite took this image, showing the same streaks covering miles. That algae even near Moorhaven Lock. You're looking at video of the algae piling up along canals just upstream of the lock on Thursday. I asked FGC Water School professor Dr. Barry Rosen what this algae is. He says it's likely microcesis.
It's a pretty decent amount that's floated up, being moved around by the wind and the waves, and maybe making toxin. Don't know for sure, but it's a possibility.
Dr. Rosen says this algae is likely feeding on nitrogen and phosphorus in the lake. He adds that while the algae can produce toxins, he's more concerned about the bacteria that lives on the algae. That bacteria can lead to low oxygen events and fish kills. And while we are seeing high concentrations of blue-green algae on Lake Okeechobee, Dr. Rosen says we're already seeing blue-green on the Caloosahatchee as well. That does include a new health alert here tonight from the Florida Department of Health for areas up along Fort Myers shores and, yes, the Caloosahatchee River for harmful algal toxins from blue-green algae. Now here, coming up at 6, you'll hear more from Dr. Rosen as well as the Colusa Waterkeeper's perspective on the situation. In North Fort Myers, meteorologist Andrew Shipley, Fox 4.
Welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm certified meteorologist Katie Woles. We continue to closely monitor scattered downpours across southwest Florida. Just like yesterday, we are seeing some major impacts, especially along I-75, some of our busiest communities right now as we try to get home from work. And of course, a lot of folks hitting the road early for that long weekend ahead. Let's take a live look outside right now. This is what it looks like from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. This is just one of the spots dealing with some moderate to heavy rain. No warnings to tell you about, nothing of the severe criteria. However, we do have heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, and in some of these storms, we also have some gusty, damaging winds. So keep an eye on that. First, let's start in southern Collier County for 10,000 Islands, Port of the Islands to Marco Island. Thankfully, these storms continue to die down right along 41, farther toward the north now. Naples, you are currently dry, but we are monitoring this developing downpour over Vineyards, stretching up toward Bonita Springs. Again, right along 75 from mile marker 116 all the way south, say down to Immokalee Road. Definitely seeing those areas of reduced visibility for sure anywhere in Lee County at this point. If you are traveling on I-75 in Lee County, you are inevitably dealing with some severe slowdowns, especially heading toward Estero as well as Miramar Lakes. And notice right here also in some of our busiest, most congested areas where we have the ongoing construction. We're talking about Colonial Boulevard, even down here toward Daniels Parkway, seeing those areas of heavy rainfall also causing some slowdowns. Now these storms, they are slow moving, but we are seeing a slight drift off toward the south and east. So Gateway seeing some of that rain, Lehigh already seeing some of that moderate rainfall, but that will be picking up in intensity here in short order. Likewise over Suncoast Estates, North Fort Myers, we are still dealing with that consistent moderate to heavy rain up through Herons Glen Boulevard right toward the Charlotte County line. There's another look at that shower right over Alva. Same spots that got hit yesterday are also some of the same locations hit right now. We are monitoring this downpour over Punta Gorda Isles, stretching back into other parts of Punta Gorda just to the east of downtown, and a lot of activity right now across Glades County. Basically all of Glades right now orange and red with these thunderstorms that continue stretching up toward Buckhead Ridge. So here's a closer look at that storm in and around Lake Okeechobee. Basically, regardless of where you are this afternoon, especially inland, you want to make sure you stay weather aware. Keep it tuned here as we track these storms. Next couple of hours will stay active through 7 o'clock. Then after 8 o'clock, we'll clear out that cloud cover and we can expect dry conditions overnight. Your Saturday morning starts off lots of sunshine, and take a look at this. Showers and storms few and far between. Starting tomorrow afternoon, we'll pull back those rain chances. Rain probabilities for tomorrow at just 20%. Same story heading into your Sunday. So showers and storms really won't be a big concern for tomorrow as we start off the day around 70 up to 88 for the afternoon. And then looking ahead to your Memorial Day forecast, mainly dry conditions forecast.
It is safe to say that RSW will be busy over the holiday weekend, but this evening we know traffic for the month of April was actually down when compared to just a year ago. While April saw more than 980,000 passengers come through RSW, that's down almost 20% of what it saw in April of 2022. And if you go back to January 1st, traffic is down about 18% from last year.
Going to be jam-packed on the roads today as we get closer to Memorial Day. As you can see, lots of busy traffic today here in Nashville, and other cities will see much of the same. AAA says today is expected to be the busiest travel day as people head to their final destinations for the holiday weekend. As holiday travelers brace for packed highways and possible delays, AAA projects 37.1 million Americans will drive to their destinations this year, up 6% from the year before. Still, while most travelers are expected to travel by car, experts say car travel won't be back to pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, more people are taking advantage of other forms of transportation like buses and trains, a 20.6% increase from the year before, but still not back to pre-pandemic levels.
Now that the pandemic is, really in the rear view for most folks, we're seeing a resurgence of that. We're seeing a lot of pent-up desire to travel.
AAA says the best times to travel by car will be in the morning or evening after 6 p.m. and on Saturday and Sunday when the rush has died down a bit. Gas prices are also down compared to last year, but still higher than they were before the pandemic. Gas Buddy projects the national average price for a gallon of regular gas will be $3.53. Cheaper by a little over $1 compared to this time last year. Still, despite the low price, drivers aren't happy at the pump.
You can't do nothing with $100 no more.
Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy says Americans are expected to spend $1.6 billion less on gasoline over Memorial Day weekend compared to last year.
Americans many times last year took big road trips, even with higher prices, because the searing hot economy. Now that things have cooled down, Americans are a little bit more cautious about hitting the road.
States with the highest average gas prices include California, Hawaii, and Arizona, and the lowest are Mississippi, Texas, and Louisiana. And more on gas prices. Patrick DeHaan, who you just saw there, says gas prices could go up if debt ceiling discussions go well, meaning if the debt limit is raised, gas prices will go up and vice versa. DeHaan also says it's possible we've already seen the peak in gas prices for this year. Back to you.
History coming from out of the White House this evening, and Fox 4 Investigates looks at how a new fight against anti-Semitism could play a role right here in Southwest Florida.
Southwest Florida. This is Fox 4 News at 5.
And welcome back here at Fox 4 News at 5. I'm Shari Armstrong, and we appreciate you trusting us. Today, Governor Ron DeSantis went to Orlando, where he pushed back on accusations of pulling literature from school libraries. During a speech at the Florida Parent Educators Association Homeschool Convention, DeSantis said the latest book in question, Amanda Gorman's book of poems, was not removed, but instead moved from an elementary school to a middle school library. The poems removal is part of a law that requires the approval of books in classrooms and grants parents the power, they tell us, to have specific books reviewed. And now that the governor is running for the White House, he says he's not wasting any time going after the GOP favorite, former President Donald Trump. While DeSantis is knocking former President Trump for failing to finish the border wall and over Trump's COVID policies, Trump has responded that Florida had amongst the highest number of deaths from COVID. DeSantis told a New Hampshire radio show why he thinks Trump is focused on him.
I think a lot of what he's doing is showing everybody that he understands that I've got a good chance to beat him, because he doesn't criticize anybody else now. It's only me.
Ron DeSantis has not yet faced what Donald Trump has faced since 2015, and that is an unrelenting pursuit, not just by the media, but by the deep state. And I think it's yet to be seen how that will turn out.
And Trump ripped DeSantis' campaign's rollout on Twitter in his opening 25 minutes of technical problems by saying the DeSantis announcement is another example of why the governor is not ready for the presidency. Well, the person currently in the White House unveiled the first of its kind anti-Semitism strategy. Now we're going to take a look at what it covers and what this could mean for Southwest Florida.
I'm Fox 4 Investigates Ryan Kruger, and for months I have been documenting the rise of anti-Semitism and the state of hate. Now, for the first time in history, the White House is out with a comprehensive plan to combat anti-Semitism in the United States. President Biden says it's up to the society as a whole to help combat hate crimes. Recent numbers from the FBI show a 20% increase in hate crimes against Jewish people in the last year. Another survey from the Anti-Defamation League found Florida has the fourth most anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. President Biden calls this the most ambitious plan ever.
We must say clearly and forcefully that anti-Semitism and all forms of hate and violence have no place in America.
The four-pronged plan includes increased awareness about anti-Semitism, improving security for Jewish communities, reversing the normalization of anti-Semitism, and building cross-community solidarity. The White House is also planning to partner with professional sports leagues, all in hopes of raising awareness. You can find more of that plan right now on fox4now.com. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
Welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm certified meteorologist Katie Walls. We continue to track heavy downpours, frequent lightning right now across southwest Florida. And these storms, they are slow moving. So a quick 1 to 3 inches in the rain gauge where these storms have set up shop to be expected. So do anticipate ponding on the roads, as well as some minor flooding, especially in spots with clogged drainage ditches. Let's take a live look outside right now at what it looks like in downtown Fort Myers. Very heavy rainfall. That particular cell right now affecting North Fort Myers, but thankfully downtown itself really seeing some improvements there, at least no longer seeing blinding rain. Instead, it's just light rain for downtown. Now we head farther southward into Collier County from Vineyards, traveling up I-75 to Bonita Springs. So crossing from Collier into Lee, dealing with those very intense downpours right along I-75, stretching up toward Estero, Miramar Lakes, back toward even parts of Fort Myers Beach. Iona McGregor, you're going to be hit by that particular shower as well. But notice this downpour right here over North Fort Myers and Fort Myers, right over downtown. At least we're seeing more yellows versus those reds, indicating those storms are starting to collapse. That said, if you are in and around Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, keep your eye to the sky. We'll take a look at those rain chances for the weekend ahead next.
The amount of debt Americans have just hit a new record. Numbers out today from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York show that debt surpassed $17 trillion for the first time. That's up $148 billion from the end of last year. Mortgages, car loans, and student loans are some of the areas seeing the biggest increases. Today, the Supreme Court agreed to hear two prominent cases with big political implications. One case is a Biden administration appeal to limit lawsuits filed by members of Congress against the federal government. The case stems from disputes over a Washington, D.C. hotel, once partly owned by former President Trump. In the second case, the justices will review South Carolina's congressional map for discrimination against black voters. The CDC is out with a new warning today about Mpox, formerly called monkeypox. The agency says our country's outbreak isn't over, and we could see a resurgence this summer as people gather for festivals and other events. The CDC is already tracking a cluster of infections in Chicago.
Well, the annual sales tax holiday starts tomorrow, and you can save money on everything from hurricane supplies to pet food. As far as getting ready for hurricane season, which remember is now only a week away, as long as they cost $50 or less, you can buy them without paying state sales tax. We actually stopped by an Ace Hardware store for an idea of what falls into that realm when you're getting ready for storm season.
On the tax-free items are like battery backups for your flashlights and emergency warning systems like the weather radio. We have the nuts and bolts here for your shutters, and we have propane for your burners and cookers. Anything you need to tape down, we have duct tape here for it.
Yeah, and you might not know that cleaning supplies are also qualified in this. If they're $30 or less, you won't have to pay taxes on things also like toilet paper, soap, laundry detergent, trash bags, and even sunscreen.
There's a growing push to pay teachers more. Educators across the country are calling on political leaders to boost their salaries. Last school year, public school teachers were paid about $67,000 on average. That was a 2% increase from the school year before. Some education experts say that's not nearly enough to keep up with the pace of inflation. Becky Pringle is the president of the National Education Association. She says teachers are making 6.4% less today than they did 10 years ago, and she's fighting to change that.
We have been advocating across the country to focus in on the salaries of our teachers and our support staff, but it is not making up for the decades of disinvestment and the reality that when we adjust for inflation, they still struggle to take care of their families without having another job.
According to the Economic Policy Institute, teachers have a significant wage penalty gap, meaning they make about 24% less than other professionals with the same level of education and experience. Low wages have forced many educators to leave the profession, a move that's adding to the growing teacher shortage.
So respect them by paying them a professional salary, but they don't stop there. They talk about respecting them as professionals, so that they have the authority and the collaborative autonomy to make the teaching and learning decisions that are best for our students. And we finally have to, at every level of government, put our money where our mouths are. We can't just talk about appreciation this year. We have to talk about action.
This year, governors in 26 states have advocated for boosting teachers' salaries. President Biden has also called on lawmakers to act.
A lot of people don't want to return to the office full time. So if you're looking for work, in particular a remote job, you need to be careful. Employment scams are seeing a resurgence.
A lot of employees like being remote, so they're looking for that remote job. And that's where they fall victim to some of these scams.
The Better Business Bureau's Melanie McGovern says if you didn't fill out an application or if you get a job offer without an interview, you may be the victim of an employment scam.
You have to go through multiple rounds of interviews, especially if it's a higher paying job. And that's, I think, where people get confused. They'll see, high pay, you go back and forth on an email exchange and all of a sudden you have the job. That's a big red flag.
The BBB's annual Scam Tracker report found employment scams rose from the third riskiest scam in 2021 to the second riskiest in 2022. Victims also lost more money to employment scams. The average loss was $900 in 2021, but $1,500 last year. Other signs of employment scams are payment before you start any work and communication through social media or from a personal email account. So investigate a job before signing on, and that way you don't waste your money.
Every generation is always ready to complain about the generation before them, but Gen Z seems to be fighting for more than just young adults. We've seen thousands of people go on strike, protest, or walk out on the job in a push to unionize. More than 64% of Gen Zers say they support the workers' effort to organize, compared to 60% of millennials and 57% for the baby boomers. A recent poll says public support for labor organizing is the highest it has been in decades. But even with a spike in support, just 10% of American workers are part of a union. That's about a 50% drop from the 80s.
Those of you traveling, be safe. For those of you staying right here in Southwest Florida, we've got to look at some of what's going on to keep you entertained during this holiday weekend.
Men's sports to women's sports, one certainly has more of a platform than the other. But one business here in Portland, Oregon is out to prove that when you give something a platform that traditionally has been undervalued or underappreciated, something magical happens.
This is what the status quo does not look like.
So I would say almost 95% of everything in here has been donated.
Yes, this is a bar, a sports bar, but owner Jenny Wynn says if you look closer, you'll notice a small detail that makes this space special.
If all we're doing is changing the channel, all we do is take sports bar, switch these two letters around, and it started this idea that the tiniest changes sometimes make the biggest difference.
At the Sports Bra, all the channels are tuned into women's sports, the first bar of its kind in the world to do so. Born out of Wynn, a lifelong sports fan, and her friend's frustration with the status quo of watching sports in public, like feeling out of place with the rest of the crowd, having to plead with staff to show games, or watching in silence.
I remember hugging a friend and being like, that was the best game I've ever seen. And she said, You know, it would have been so much better if the sound had been on. And right when she said that, out of frustration, I said, the only way we're ever going to watch women's sports in its full glory is if we had our own place. We would go out and we were disillusioned by whatever experience we were having. We would have this fantasy place that we would refer to, and we'd be like, oh, at the sports bra, gymnastics would be on. Or, oh, at the sports bra, you know, they'd have gluten-free buns for our burgers.
The inside joke turned into a business in April of last year with signature cocktails like the Title IX and an unrelenting policy, women's sports only.
You know, we get calls all the time of like, right now they're like, are you guys showing the Lakers game? And we're like, who are the Lakers?
It was a gamble, but it was quickly a success. Women's sports viewership is skyrocketing. A report by Samba TV, released at the end of last year, gave a glimpse at the audience year-over-year growth. The women's 2022 March Madness viewership increased 81% compared to last year. The 2022 WNBA Finals increased 171%, and the 2022 National Women's Soccer League Championship a 435% year-over-year increase. Women's sports also resonate with younger audiences. 39% of Gen Z sports fans say they're watching more women's sports.
People are getting more eyes on things that they haven't had access to, whether that's through social media, through more streaming services, or big network deals.
What can't be calculated, however, is the community that is being built, how people feel safe and seen gathering in this bar.
You know, when you're not having to fight for it, when you're not having to defend it, and it's open and welcome, it creates that freedom of energy to just dream bigger. Like, it's almost like a launching pad for the possibilities. Like, you can come here and you can see what is happening right now. Now what is next? Like, let's dream bigger.
Wins hope. The success of the sports bra inspires other locations in the future, and that her example of breaking the sports status quo inspires others.
I just feel very, very optimistic about the future of women's sports. It's going to take a lot of work, but we're all here for it.
Vanessa Mashani, Scripps News, Portland.
Welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm certified meteorologist Katie Walls. We continue to watch heavy downpours and lightning across southwest Florida, all associated with our classic afternoon storms. Thankfully, nothing is severe, but some of these storms are packing a punch and causing some big slowdowns. First, let's take a live look outside at a neat perspective from atop the Fox 4 studios. And here we are, we're looking down Pine Island Road. And as we look that direction, we are seeing some very heavy rainfall right now. Meanwhile, if you look toward the coast, you might be seeing a beautiful blue sky, the complete opposite for some spots. For example, Pine Island, Sanibel, Captiva. It's a gorgeous afternoon, but not for the rest of us. So let's zoom in first to Collier County. Start our radar tour here. So East Naples to Golden Gate, stretching up to Vanderbilt Beach Road, seeing some very heavy rainfall here. Right along I-75, now drifting into parts of North Naples. Basically, regardless of where you are on I-75, from Collier County into Lee, guaranteed you are seeing those slowdowns. And of course, during the heart of the afternoon and evening commute and going into a long weekend. Right now, Bonita Springs seeing that thunderstorm intensity improve. Notice we're no longer seeing as much red, but still that yellow to orange, indicating likely some slowdowns. Right here, Lovers Key State Park stretching up to Estero Island, including Fort Myers Beach. Seeing those light to moderate rain showers there. Also progressing up toward Iona McGregor, as well as Cypress Lake into South Fort Myers, as well as North Fort Myers. The worst of this storm right now actually working its way toward the Cape Coral Parkway. So especially the southern part of the Cape, heading toward Del Prado. Likely seeing some of those slowdowns right now just to the south of Midpoint Bridge, basically in between our two southern bridges here in the Cape. As we head into downtown Fort Myers, notice big improvement here. No longer seeing the reds and oranges. Now we're just seeing a lot of green as that particular storm starts to wind down. Farther inland, we are monitoring some areas of heavy rainfall. LaBelle, this intensity is going to be picking up in short order. Right now you have light to moderate, and here in the next 5 minutes or so, you're going to be dealing with very heavy, intense rain. Same story as you head farther off toward the south, parts of eastern Lehigh Acres. Up toward Punta Gorda Isles into Port Charlotte, right along the Peace River into Charlotte Harbor. We continue to see those areas of moderate rainfall. These downpours working their way from the west toward the east, also heading toward I-75. So really, regardless of where you are here in Southwest Florida, if you are hitting the interstate, you will likely need to pack your patience. Palmdale, Lakeport, anywhere in Glades County. Very consistent rainfall ongoing down toward Moorhaven into Whitten Corner and back toward Clewiston. Seeing those nearly stationary thunderstorms back build south down toward Montura. So again, we continue to watch these strong storms, not severe, but producing heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, as well as some gusty winds. And in these storms, 1 to 3 inches of rain will be a possibility. So we could see some spots with isolated flooding concerns. This potential will continue through 8 o'clock. Then once that sun sets, we'll see big improvements from 9 o'clock onward. And then looking ahead to tomorrow, you'll also be noticing those big improvements. So tomorrow morning, lots of sunshine, drier air built in for your Saturday afternoon. Take a look at this. Hour by hour, those showers few and far between. We'll drop back those rain chances tomorrow to just 20%. Overnight tonight, storms in, partly cloudy skies expected tomorrow into the upper 80s, but feeling even hotter because of the humidity. Memorial Day.
All right, so back for the first time in 3 years, DeSoto County is holding its Watermelon Festival tomorrow. It's at the DeSoto County Fairgrounds from 8 in the morning until 8 p.m. They say they're going to have a lot of food for you, some crafts and some games. This is a tradition there. We've got more information on this event for you because you might be looking for things to do this weekend. So you can go to fox4now.com for more information. Also starting tomorrow, Sunsplash Water Park in Cape Coral is offering 1 free admission to active and retired military service members with your valid ID until Monday. And on Sunday, you can head to the Calusa Sound Amphitheater from 1 to 10 p.m. for the Red, White, and Tunes Festival. It's going to be a day filled with vendors, they tell us. They also tell us they're going to have food. They're going to have some bars there as well and games. And then, of course, Memorial Day. Conquer Athletics Sports Ministry will be hosting their home run derby right at the Paradise Coast Sports Complex starting at 8 in the morning. All the money collected there at the fundraiser, they tell us, will go to the families of fallen soldiers. Also on Monday, you can head out to Naples. We didn't forget about those of you in Collier County. You can hang out with the Collier County Sheriff's Office to remember and to honor fallen soldiers at the Villa at Terracina Grand from 2:30 to 3:30. And if you're looking for things to do this Memorial Day weekend, there is a lot happening in Southwest Florida. And as I mentioned, you can go to our website, fox4now.com, for more information. Well, a man paralyzed in a motorbike accident more than a decade ago can now walk again. You heard that correctly. Researchers in Switzerland developed technology that linked his brain and his spinal cord. It's an incredible story. And Meg Terrell tonight is introducing us to the man who says it worked so well that he had to learn how to walk naturally all over again. And he did. Take a look.
Hertjan Oskam was unable to take a single step after a spinal cord injury left him paralyzed more than a decade ago. But now he can stand up and walk, even over tough terrain, and go upstairs. Technology is turning Oskam's thoughts into actions. Electrodes implanted over his brain collect signals from the region that controls movements. A computer analyzes them to predict how he wants to move, and then messages electrodes implanted in his spinal cord that allow him to make those movements.
I only have to think about the movement, and I can start and stop.
While electrical stimulation has helped other paralyzed patients walk again, they've had to turn on implants that send a continuous signal to their spinal cord. Oskam's success is documented in a new scientific paper in the journal Nature. He was the first participant in a clinical trial for the technology, and researchers are hopeful about future possibilities. He says he can walk about 110 yards depending on the day, a little more than a football field. He can also stand without supporting himself with his hands for a few minutes and is looking forward to gaining even more function. Meg Terrell, CNN, reporting.
In just a few days' time, this massive convention center will be transformed and filled with 231 spellers, all hoping to become this year's Bee champion. They're coming from far and wide. We caught up with a couple of them, bringing their own buzz to the bee. On the back porch of her family home, Lila Reckles suits up, ready to check out what's buzzing in the backyard. What came first, beekeeping or the spelling bee?
I think the spelling bee came first, yeah. We got bees a couple of years ago. Yeah, and they've been doing pretty well ever since.
A quick check of the hive, and then it's back to studying for this budding beekeeper as she gets ready for this year's Scripps National Spelling Bee.
We have a word list, and I like just sitting on the couch or on my bed and reading that over. Or sometimes I'll go on the porch swing and look at the dictionary online.
The North Carolina 13-year-old says she's still stunned she made it this far.
It is crazy. I never imagined.
What is a word out there that kind of trips you up a little bit?
The word icy. Yes.
Why? What is it about it?
I don't know. I just usually think it's spelled I-C-E-Y, and it's just I-C-Y. I don't know why.
Nearly 1,800 miles away,
I remember it's like spelled like fire.
Tasba Spruan of Fort Defiance, Arizona, says she's ready for the trip to the bee.
The fact that I'm going is just, I'm just grateful for that.
Tasba lives on the Navajo Nation and says she understands the importance of making it to the national competition.
The Navajo Nation, it doesn't really have a lot of representation, and being able to be someone who does represent it, it makes me feel proud.
And when she takes the stage at the bee, she already knows exactly what she's going to wear.
This one's the one I usually wear.
Traditional Navajo clothing.
When people say dress up, it's not like you wear like dresses, you wear Navajo clothes. So I think it's just something I've always known I was gonna do.
When I was a speller, Bee Week really was the best week of the year for me. It was so much fun.
The Bee's new director, Corey Leffler, is a former bee competitor herself. She says beyond what happens on stage, she hopes all the spellers coming in enjoy the experience and come away with new friends.
That's what I'm focused on for these kids, is building that fun, memorable, exciting, connecting experience.
Which is something that both Lila and Tasba say they're looking forward to doing too.
I'm very excited.
Maya Rodriguez, Scripps News, National Harbor, Maryland.
Well, ahead on Fox 4 News at 6, history coming from the White House this evening.
And Fox 4 Investigates looks at how a new fight against anti-Semitism could play a role right here in Southwest Florida.
Also, blue-green algae blooms springing up in Lake Okeechobee, and it could be headed to Southwest Florida. We're going to tell you what that could mean for our water quality and speak to experts from FGCU about what it means for the habitat as well as it heads down the Caloosahatchee.
All of that and more coming up right here. We hope you'll join us for Fox 4 News at 6. See you then.
A new plan in D.C. to target anti-Semitism. The Biden administration's four-part plan to make the community safer. But will it help solve hate crimes here in Florida? Fox 4 investigates.
And as the governor prepares to take a nationwide campaign into high gear, Floridians are looking at his current partner, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, and how she could step in and play a pivotal role while the governor hits the road. Plus, rent in Cape Coral is only getting worse, taking a new #1 spot tonight.
Tonight, Fox 4 going in depth on the rental concerns in Southwest Florida for you.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6 as we're kicking off Memorial Day weekend. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I'm Shari Armstrong.
And silence. Silence is complicity. It cannot remain silent. I will not remain silent. You should not either.
For the first time in history, the White House is releasing a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism and hate. Tonight, Fox 4 Investigates is digging into the comprehensive plan, which calls on the entire society to combat hate.
So President Biden's plan consists of 4 main goals. They're right here. The first is to increase awareness of the threat facing Jewish communities in our country. The second is to improve safety and security. Third on the list, reverse normalization of anti-Semitism. And he says number 4 is to build community solidarity.
Now, investigative reporter Ryan Kruger joining us live in studio after months of reporting on the state of hate here in the Sunshine State. And Ryan, you have uncovered Florida has some of the highest rates of hate crimes here.
Yeah, the Anti-Defamation League says that the Sunshine State has the 4th most incidents of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S., behind only 3 other states, of course. Other reports show hate crimes have skyrocketed in recent years, and some in Southwest Florida's Jewish communities say it's finally time that something like this has come.
The crimes have happened in our communities.
Anti-Semitism is as old as the Jewish people.
Local Jewish residents attacked at their places of worship.
We stand against any type of hate crime in our community.
After months of showing you the rise of hate and anti-Semitism in Florida and the rest of the country, Fox 4 Investigates is now showing you what the Biden administration and some Jewish leaders feel is a start at a plan for solutions.
I think it's important to reverse the normalization of anti-Semitism, the normalization of hatred.
Brian Lipton is the regional director for the American Jewish Committee, which has been working with the White House to develop the first ever national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. The most recent FBI numbers show while nationally there were about 3,000 more hate crimes year to year, or a 12% increase, those involving Jewish people increased by 20%. Florida was above the national trend, according to the Attorney General's office, with a 16.5% increase in hate crimes.
This is something that is so scary. I mean, this is why this national strategy is so important.
The White House's plan is to increase education and awareness about anti-Semitism, which Lipton says is too often ignored or unknown.
30% of Americans don't know about the Holocaust, and the sooner that we can get to young children, the sooner we can stop the spread of hate.
And a couple things to keep in mind for important context. It is important to note that in the state of Florida, it is the law that Holocaust education be taught in elementary schools and high schools. And while local numbers do remain low as far as the number of hate crimes that happen, it's important to report when they are still happening. The White House argues that too many people believe anti-Semitic tropes and don't have a basic understanding of the Holocaust and American Jewish history, which they argue can lead to hate. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
Nothing is going to change from the standpoint of all will be well in Florida. No one should panic. The governor is still very focused on Florida, but he has a tremendous amount of energy and passion and vigor. And so I think he'll do just fine.
Florida's Lieutenant Governor addressing concerns following Governor Ron DeSantis' announcement to run for president. The state's second in command says she'll likely be taking on more responsibilities in the coming months.
Yeah, that's as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis turns his attention to his race for the White House in 2024. But Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez told Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders no one should panic here on his run.
And Forrest has the details for you from Tallahassee tonight.
As Governor Ron DeSantis jets off for a blitz of early states over the next few months, what'll happen back here in Florida? Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez told us this on Thursday.
Make no mistake, he is still governor of the great state of Florida, and he's still going to be very involved in making sure that everything that we need to do here in the state of Florida, he will be a part of.
DeSantis, Nunez says, will still be top dog in state government, but she will step up as needed when he steps away, whether that's for events, meetings, and especially as fall brings a ramp up to the January legislative session.
I'll probably look to be more involved in the legislative priorities as we get those underway. But again, nothing is going to change from the standpoint of all will be well in Florida. No one should panic. The governor is still very focused on Florida.
Nunez is a native Floridian and mother of 3. She served in the Florida House for 8 years before becoming DeSantis LT.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here.
She also endorsed DeSantis for president earlier this week, and the governor returned the favor when asked Thursday what would happen if he wins the White House.
Our lieutenant governor would take the reins. Jeanette Nunez, she's done a great job. She's been with us on all these different issues, and so you would see continuity in the governor's office.
Nunez reaffirmed that continuity when we spoke and that Floridians who like DeSantis would see more of the same.
Floridians should rest in knowing that he has been confident in me and he selected me to be his lieutenant governor not once but twice. And so I think that they should also be confident in knowing that I have their best interests at heart as well.
Top Democrats, however, not happy.
She's going to have to step up because Ron's not going to be here. He is going to be everywhere but Florida.
The chair of the state party, Nikki Fried, has some serious reservations about Nunez. Fried says the lieutenant governor hasn't been properly vetted.
So now we're going to have an individual who's making day-to-day decisions that are going to be implementing all of his policy perspectives and carrying on his legacy. And it's unfortunate that we're going to have to be dealing with DeSantis 2.0 and Jeanette Nunez.
But her potential fate as governor and the actual governor's fate as president now tied to 2024 as voters ready for their chance to weigh in the coming months.
Well, it is that time of year where you definitely want to get a check of your weather before you head outside, because 9 times out of 10, something's up around this time.
We are officially in rainy season, and there is a mess on the roads as we're tracking several storms as we bring in certified meteorologist Katie Walls.
That's right. Scattered downpours producing not just heavy rain and frequent lightning, but also some gusty winds and those stronger cells that have affected some of our communities. Let's take a live look outside right now to give you that perspective. This is from the Fox 4 studios. So here we are. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're actually seeing all that white. That is a rain shaft. Same story on the left-hand side. You see the gray. That is also a rain shaft. Plus, we have those low-hanging cumulus. So regardless of where you are, we are dealing with widespread showers. Downtown Cape Coral, though, or Cape Coral proper, is on the dry side. But let me show you those storms we were just looking at. Farther inland, take a look at this. This is the strongest cell that we are currently watching here in southwest Florida. Big downpour right over Felda. This storm capable of producing not just heavy rain and lightning, but also 30 to 40 mile per hour winds as you head down toward 82. So Immokalee, get ready. It's raining for you now, but that intensity will be picking up in short order. Farther toward the south now across Golden Gate, downtown Naples were dry, but East Naples, North Naples seeing some of that moderate rainfall right now. So we are monitoring that up to Vanderbilt Beach, and really from Collier County up until Lee County along 75. We are certainly seeing those slowdowns because of the wet conditions. That said, in and around Bonita Springs, that intensity definitely lightening up as that storm continues to dissipate. Over Fort Myers Beach, just some light rain showers at this point, but for the southern part of the Cape, searching up toward the Cape Coral Parkway, we are seeing some of those areas of heavy rain, which inevitably are causing some slowdowns right there on the southern side of the Caloosahatchee before you make your way out toward the water. And as we look up toward Manatee Park and Buckingham, still seeing some of that light rain as well. We have a lot more to track for you on radar coming up in the next 10 minutes. Plus, I'll have your Memorial Day weekend weather.
Well, this evening, we are learning more about the fatal shooting that stemmed from a home invasion in Punta Gorda. Deputies in Charlotte County say one of the suspects in that shooting has died and another is in the hospital tonight. Deputies say those 2 suspects were part of a 4-person group targeting this home on Beverly Avenue, and a 5th person, a neighbor, also got involved in the scene as well. So here's what we know at this hour. Deputies say there's an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. They both have been arrested and they both are on your screen, as well as a 17-year-old whose identity has not been released. According to deputies, Masaki is a neighbor who inserted himself in the scene. He's charged with aggravated battery. The 18-year-old that you just saw is charged with accessory after the fact of a first-degree felony. A 3rd person, the 17-year-old, is charged with home invasion robbery with a firearm. So as this develops, we will post the latest on our website. Just go here as it shows you on your screen, fox4now.com, for the latest on this story.
Well, taking you to talks in D.C. tonight, lawmakers are still working on a deal that could prevent the country from defaulting on its debt for the first time ever. But now this discussion over the debt is impacting Lee County's budget right here in Southwest Florida.
We are recommending a reallocation of ARPA funds as a precautionary measure in the face of the debt ceiling negotiations underway in Washington, D.C.
So that was Lee County's Assistant County Manager Glenn Saylor talking about how the debt limit talks could impact those critical funds that are coming from the American Rescue Plan. Saylor says that it's now looking to take the funds from the ARPA plan and to find projects that could be worked on immediately in order to ensure that that money granted to the county from ARPA is used efficiently without the risk of losing any of it. So as it stands right now, the county has $27 million in existing project money that it wants to ensure gets carried out. Things like Fort Myers Beach utilities and cybersecurity assessments for county facilities. The $27 million is also part of the American Rescue Plan money that the county wants to use for things like projects like the Bob Janes Empowerment Center and EMT training and funding for the county. County leaders say when that deal is eventually made in D.C., the county will then have a better idea of just how much money it has to work with. Well, it is Memorial Day weekend. Travelers are taking advantage of the 3-day weekend.
And lots of people are expected, of course, to hit the road.
So coming up, AAA is telling us just how many drivers you'll be sharing the highways with this weekend. Also, Cape Coral's rent problem, it does not seem to be getting any better anytime soon. In fact, the city now ranks #1 on a new list. Our housing reporter, Caitlin Knapp, breaking down the data and how this rising rent is impacting you.
If you're hitting the road this evening, this could be what you're up against. This is a live look at Corkscrew Road as our friends along I-75 northbound try to exit. We are seeing some big slowdowns out there. I'm tracking that rain for you live and timing when it will clear out.
It's Memorial Day weekend, for some the unofficial start of summer, and a lot of people taking to the skies. In fact, some are saying that this is going to be the most crowded air travel has been since 2019, before the pandemic.
Yeah, so get ready if you're heading to the airport. The skies are packed and the roads are expected to be too. Our national correspondent Stephanie Sandoval has your Memorial Day weekend travel forecast from the ground.
As holiday travelers brace for packed highways and possible delays, AAA projects 37.1 million Americans will drive to their destinations this year, up 6% from the year before. Still, while most travelers are expected to travel by car, experts say car travel won't be back to pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, more people are taking advantage of other forms of transportation like buses and trains, a 20.6% increase from the year before, but still not back to pre-pandemic levels.
Now that the pandemic is, really in the rear view for most folks, we're seeing a resurgence of that. We're seeing a lot of pent-up desire to travel.
AAA says the best times to travel by car will be in the morning or evening after 6 p.m. and on Saturday and Sunday when the rush has died down a bit. Gas prices are also down compared to last year, but still higher than they were before the pandemic. Gas Buddy projects the national average price for a gallon of regular gas will be $3.53, cheaper by a little over $1 compared to this time last year. Still, despite the low price, drivers aren't happy at the pump.
You can't do nothing with $100 no more.
Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy says Americans are expected to spend $1.6 billion less on gasoline over Memorial Day weekend compared to last year.
Americans many times last year took big road trips, even with higher prices, because the searing hot economy. Now that things have cooled down, Americans are a little bit more cautious about hitting the road.
States with the highest average gas prices include California, Hawaii, and Arizona, and the lowest are Mississippi, Texas, and Louisiana. Stephanie Sandoval, Scripps News.
All right, so I want to show you this to get you an idea of where gas prices are in Southwest Florida. Take a look. These are Memorial Day gas prices in Southwest Florida along I-75. They're nearly all above the state's average of $3.38. Look at Charlotte County right there. It is the lowest by about 7 cents a gallon. In Collier County, well above the state's average. Still, Florida is below the nation's average of $3.57 a gallon.
There will also be near record levels of air travel this weekend. As we mentioned, the FAA says over 313,000 flights will be in the air over this next 7-day holiday. Now, that is still below pre-pandemic levels, but airlines may actually surpass the passenger total since airlines are now using bigger airplanes these days compared to just 4 years ago. Now, the FAA says yesterday alone, 51,000 flights took off. Delta already reporting a 17% increase in those passenger totals.
So many people getting ready to head out for the holiday weekend. And of course, you're wondering what your weather looks like right about now.
Also, if you're headed out right now or maybe hitting the road on the Friday night, it's going to be a mess out there. Yep. Katie's not only tracking the roads, but also some storms that are impacting our land.
Definitely heavy downpours right now for the next couple of hours. Then we'll see those improvements later on tonight. I want to show you what that looks like right now on the road. So we have all of these showers and storms and some of the biggest downpours right along I-75, of course, one of our main arteries here into and out of Southwest Florida. Take a look at this. This is up in Charlotte County. This is in between Bayshore and Tucker's Grade, but we are seeing that rain heavy in places and unfortunately causing some slowdowns as well. Now let's take a live look outside, a different perspective from atop the Fox 4 studios. And as we look live here, you see those ominous looking clouds. Basically, if you're not getting wet, then this is what you're seeing. Ominous looking clouds all around you as these showers and storms are fairly numerous and fairly widespread. That's why your rain probabilities this time yesterday for today were at 70%. So let's start first with the strongest cell, this part of Hendry County. So western Hendry, here's LaBelle. LaBelle seeing big improvements, but right here over Felda, if you're traveling from LaBelle down to Felda right along 29, seeing some pretty intense rain here as well as frequent cloud to ground lightning stretching down toward the Immokalee area. Yes, we are seeing some improvements with this cell, but still it is producing that heavy rainfall stretching back on 82 heading up to Lehigh Acres. And farther south, Orange Tree seeing light to moderate rain showers, bit more consistent rain down toward Golden Gate Estates over into North Naples. Naples, you're dry for maybe the next 5 minutes. And then you're going to see it coming in from multiple directions. So Naples, get ready. Some much needed rain moving your way. You really haven't seen much in the way of active weather so far this month, but that's going to be changing here in short order. And right here we have a little bit of a gap right along Bonita Beach Road, but otherwise heading up toward the north, we continue to see that light to moderate rainfall along 75 from Estero up toward Miramar Lakes. Some of the heaviest rain right now, Cypress Lake up toward Whiskey Creek, down toward Iona McGregor, right there toward Shell Point, the southern side of Cape Coral. We are seeing right along McGregor Boulevard that orange, that red, indicating that more consistent rain. And this storm has developed here in the last few moments. You can really see it right along Burnt Store Road. Right here is Cape Coral Parkway, and we are centered right around here. So that intensity is going to be picking up here shortly. You can already see the really deep reds building in. So Northwest Cape, we're going to be picking up likely a quick 1 to 3 inches of rain out of that particular storm. Farther up toward the north, seeing some improvements here with these showers from Harbor Heights to Punta Gorda, but still that light to moderate rain continues. Same story across Glades County and heading down toward Whitting Corner as well as Clewiston. So helping you plan out the next couple of hours, it's going to stay active. Just a heads up, but after 8 p.m., big improvements. So from 9 o'clock onward, we can expect much drier weather. As a matter of fact, I am expecting tomorrow morning to start off lots of sunshine. And with that drier air building in starting tomorrow, take a look at this. Heading into the afternoon, your hour-by-hour outlook, just a couple of spotty showers in the mix. Those rain probabilities tomorrow at just 20%, and those low rain chances will stay around into your Memorial Day weekend. So for tonight, storms and partly cloudy skies. 70 degrees is where we'll start off the day, up to 88 for the afternoon, but feeling stickier because of that humidity. Rain chances will stay low, mainly dry, mostly sunny Sunday into your Memorial Day. Then rain chances return on Wednesday.
Well, taking a look across the nation this evening, J.P. Morgan Chase bank executives testified in a Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit today. The bank executive, Jess Daly, filed a motion to dismiss himself from the hearing, but a federal judge denied that motion just a few days ago. An anonymous Epstein victim, as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands government, are both suing J.P. Morgan. The lawsuit looks to hold the bank and Staley liable for Epstein's sex trafficking. Well, Adnan Syed, the former inmate who served more than 20 years in prison for the murder of his girlfriend, is out of jail for now. The Maryland Supreme Court ruled that he'll remain free while he waits for a second hearing on reversing his conviction. It was already reversed based on DNA evidence indicating he was not the suspect responsible.
A South Carolina judge has struck down a new ban on abortion up to 6 weeks in that state. The bill was actually passed today, and then that judge struck it down only hours later. The judge ruled that 6 weeks is not sufficient time for some women to even realize that they are pregnant. Republicans in South Carolina say they have now added language that addresses these concerns in the bill, but as of right now, South Carolina's Supreme Court has no women on the bench if it does rise to that level. Well, if your rent is going up, you're not the only one. And if you are in Cape Coral, the bad news is, doesn't look like that's going to end anytime soon.
There is new information that indicates that your payments could go up in the coming months. So tonight we are going in depth to give you a better idea of what that could mean for you and your family.
Plus, miles of harmful blue-green algae. You're taking a look at it right now, sitting on top of Lake Okeechobee. All of this water has to go somewhere, bringing the algae with it. Our meteorologist Andrew Shipley tells us how that could be a threat to Southwest Florida.
Finding a place to rent and afford? It's hard. Nobody can find a home. Tonight, our housing reporter goes in depth on a growing issue, not just here in Southwest Florida, but specifically one impacting those in Cape Coral.
And new video showing blue-green algae spreading for miles on Lake Okeechobee. We'll take you there to show you the problem that's proving to be much more than a surface-level issue, and the concerns this can seep into Southwest Florida.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for trusting us here in Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Sherry Armstrong.
And I'm Nadine Yanis.
Nobody can find a home.
Tonight, Fox 4 is committed to highlighting the housing crisis and finding solutions for you. New data showing that rent in Cape Coral tonight is not just dropping. Unfortunately, it continues to go up.
We know so many of you are frustrated with this. The rental index, with some numbers from our experts here at Florida Gulf Coast University, shows Cape Coral is #1, but not for a reason we would like to see. Year over year, the city is seeing the most rent increases out of any other metro area.
Our housing reporter, Caitlin Knapp, explains how people are now navigating the price squeeze and how a real estate professor does say that prices could simmer.
Right now, Zillow says there are 104 places to rent in Cape Coral. The problem? Those are homes under $2,200. And the new data from FGCU says we should be around $2,000 right now, based on prior numbers. It's prices like this that are forcing people to rethink Florida living.
It seems impossible.
Impossible for Autumn Moore, her fiance Brittany, and dog Remy to find an affordable place to live.
It's just the high rent, and people want security deposit plus last month, plus first month. So you have to have at least like $5,000 to move in.
Moore lives with roommates, a move she made 4 months ago. Since then,
just been looking.
She can't find anything under $2,000. And numbers from Florida Gulf Coast University show what Moore's seen. Dr. Shelton Weeks, a real estate professor at FGCU, says the average rent in Cape Coral is a little more than $2,300.
We are woefully behind in terms of supplying new units to the market, both rental units and units for purchase.
He and other experts have been tracking this for a year and recently added what the Department of Housing and Urban Development calls rent burdened and severely rent burdened. Severe meaning in this case if you make $56,000 in Cape Coral or Fort Myers.
If you make less than that and you're renting, then HUD would consider you severely rent burdened.
As in you're spending more than 50% of your gross income on housing. To see any sort of slide in prices, Weeks says,
I think incentives for developers are a big part of this. We also need help from our elected officials.
It's help people like Moore.
It's very stressful.
Could use.
And I cannot find anything.
As she debates whether or not to stay in Florida or move back home to North Carolina, being priced out of paradise.
I want to get stable and I want to live my life.
Back in March, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a housing act banning cities from putting rent caps in place, which Weeks agrees with. In that same housing act, there are tax exemptions for developers, hoping to financially entice them. In studio, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
Take a moment here to go in depth here to show you how much the cost of rent is really impacting people here in Southwest Florida. I want to start in Fort Myers tonight. We checked rent.com. The average rent for a studio is $1,400 a month, $1,700 for a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom is more than $2,000 a month. But here is the thing. The number of listings below $1,500 is very low, less than 7%, more than 3/4 of the listings in Fort Myers are more than $2,100 a month. So we checked in Punta Gorda too. A 1-bedroom under $2,000 is much easier to find there in Charlotte County. Punta Gorda says 1-bedroom units are about $1,400 a month, but finding something bigger for families to fit in is much harder. Rent.com says a 2-bedroom unit is about $2,800. Almost all the listings in Punta Gorda are above $1,500 a month. Now, Northport residents, you have seen something interesting happen here the last few months for rent prices. Rent.com says that between March of today, the price of a 1-bedroom went up $570. Today, it sits at an average of $2,400. And no surprise here, Naples, you are the most expensive city overall in Southwest Florida. A 1-bedroom being the most affordable option, but it's only $27 shy of $2,000 a month. 98% of all listings in Naples are above $2,000. The good news for families, the price for 1- and 2-bedroom units are a nearly 3-year low right now per rent.com analytics. Now, we are constantly compiling this information for you, and you can find it on our website, and you can also find details on Caitlin's story by just going to our website, fox4now.com.
Well, Shari, thank you. Well, once again, Lake Okeechobee is now covered with blue-green algae blooms. NOAA says right now about 260 square miles of the lake are covered. We're talking specifically in the fish-eating bay and along the western shoreline. And environmentalists say it is a concern for us here in Southwest Florida because the water on that western side, it eventually ends up in the Caloosahatchee River. And you see that blue-green algae right there. That's where you find Fox 4's meteorologist Andrew Shipley with the concerns tonight.
I'm along the banks of the Caloosahatchee River, a river that many of us cross each and every day. But upstream, well, that's Lake Okeechobee. Algae blooms on the lake, and while the Caloosahatchee itself has some concern, we could see a summer of slime.
It's only May. Guacamole season is down the road.
That was FGCU Water School professor and algae specialist Dr. Barry Rosen's reaction when we showed him pictures of these blooms on Lake Okeechobee. They were taken last week. And Fox 4 recorded this video near Moorhaven on Thursday.
It's a pretty decent amount that's floated up, being moved around by the wind and the waves, and maybe making toxin. Don't know for sure, but it's a possibility.
Specifically, Dr. Rosen says nitrogen and phosphorus in the lake are likely feeding this bloom, and it will continue to grow until something stops it.
And then when the growth stops, it crashes. And then anything that's in the cells will leak out and cause potential problems if there's toxin in it.
And those toxins produce no odor. That rotting smell could be dead fish.
When you smell something, it's something else rotting in a bloom, so keep that in mind.
As the algae bloom breaks down, bacteria can thrive, taking away oxygen fish breathe.
Fish kills happen, then we have bacteria that can affect humans even more, like the flesh-eating bacteria, and then the other issues.
Ranger Rob Howell is a spokesperson for the Calusa Waterkeeper Environmental Organization. He says these blue-green algae blooms can snowball into other issues along the river.
But the animals have nowhere to go when these outbreaks happen.
Howell says he would like to see more water pushed south from Lake Okeechobee instead of ending up in the Caloosahatchee. While the Army Corps does plan to do just that in the new operating manual, it doesn't start till December. Dr. Rosen says he also does not have a silver bullet to get rid of these blooms.
There's really not much we can do about it because we haven't altered our nutrient flows from the watershed. The Caloosahatchee watershed puts a lot of nutrients into the canal system. Lake Okeechobee can too, but the canal system is really fed by local nutrients that come off the land.
Dr. Rosen tells me that while algal blooms are on Lake Okeechobee and near the Moorhaven Lock, blue-green algae is already embedded up and down the river, down to the Franklin Lock. And new tonight, the Florida Department of Health issuing a new health alert for Fort Myers shores up along the Caloosahatchee River for harmful algal toxins in the river. They're advising the public to use extra caution. In North Fort Myers, meteorologist Andrew Shipley, Fox 4.
Taking a look across the state this evening and covering new laws. Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new law this month tightening restrictions on undocumented migrants.
Yeah, we have been covering this bill and this reform package extensively here at Fox 4. Some of these restrictions do include invalidating driver's licenses and ID cards issued from other states. So Scripps News reporter Thomas Hoppe shows us how this can affect commercial drivers and those traveling into Florida.
About 60% of tourism into Florida is actually through driving. So a lot of these folks who are coming into the state to spend money here are not going to be able to do it anymore or risk a potential felony.
On July 1st, a new Florida law will create more restrictions for undocumented migrants. One of the major aspects of this new law will require employers of 25 or more employees to verify a worker's citizenship status. The law also prohibits issuing driver's licenses in Florida to people who are undocumented, and while in Florida, invalidates out-of-state driver's licenses for anyone who is undocumented. The law can also result in a third-degree felony charge for someone who transports a person without legal status into the state.
This is a huge problem. Obviously, this is also going to disproportionately impact people who do that for a job, right? So folks who drive trucks, but it could even impact people who drive ambulances, for example, right? So we are talking at a law with such a huge scale that will be to the detriment of everyday Floridians and people all over the country.
Samuel Vilches with the American Business Immigration Coalition says this new law could affect tourism and commercial trucking that comes into Florida.
What does this mean for businesses or truck drivers driving into Florida?
It's going to create an issue not only for Florida but all across the country, with all these trucking companies having to figure out who can they send to Florida, who can they not send to Florida, and then whether or not that person can continue doing the job that they're doing somewhere else. It just creates additional burdens for our businesses. It might delay, getting some goods over to Florida as these businesses figure out their own system.
Supporters of the law say it's needed because it will combat what they view as a significant problem with illegal immigration. According to the Migration Policy Institute, there are 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. There are currently 19 states in the country that allow undocumented adults to obtain a driver's license, arguing that roads are safer when drivers are tested and fewer uninsured people will be behind the wheel. Thomas Kennedy with the Florida Immigration Coalition is afraid the new Florida law could open doors for other states.
Kansas just passed a similar law that's even stricter. The Kansas law actually has felonies for having an undocumented person in your home or car inside the state of Kansas. So, that's going to impact mixed status families or spouses who have a different immigration status.
Thomas Hoppo, Scripps News, Orlando, Florida.
If you're heading out for the next couple of hours, this is what you'll be up against. Areas of heavy rainfall and lightning, but big improvements arrive over the weekend, including a much drier radar. I'll break down what you can expect next.
Well, after Fox 4 told you about a major delay in repairing damaged seawalls last month in Punta Gorda, tonight contractors say they are ready to get going on this project.
And this comes as we roll into a very busy holiday weekend.
Fox 4's Colton Chavez joining us live, following through for you at the Punta Gorda Isles community. And Colton, we see a large barge right behind you, but we are told this work is not going to get started this weekend.
Nadine, say large barge 15 times fast. You can't do it. But yeah, this is where the city says their starting point is going to be at. Neighbors that live in the area, they say this barge here rolled in early last week. And if you want to see how quickly the city wants to get going, they've got these pre-poured concrete slabs already staged here to go ahead and start replacing these seawalls. But if you are a boater wanting to get out on the water this holiday weekend, some good news for you is the city says they aren't expected to start this work until later next week. Now, the city of Punta Gorda, I spoke with their spokesperson earlier today, and she tells me it's going to take about a year and a half to get this job complete. Now, during that time, you'll start to see repairs made to seawalls just like these. Now, the city says the contractor plans to use at least 6 of these barges to get the job done. Now, just a little bit ago, I spoke with Mary Wilson, who lives just 2 houses down from where this barge sits. She says while the barges aren't the prettiest sight, they're welcomed.
Well, it was early last week. I could hear the diesel or whatever it was that was running, and I was like, something's going on. So a couple of our neighbors that are now since gone back up north, we stood out here, got them situated, and we literally clapped.
And I want to unpack this a little more. You just heard Mary talk about getting her neighbors who went up back north, as she called them, situated. Now, that's because the city says while seawalls come at no cost to the residents, homeowners do have to pay for the removal of all electrical and other existing infrastructure before any of this work can begin. So, Nadine, Shari, that leaves us with the question for all of our seasonal neighbors who have already gone back home. What happens to their homes? If these seawalls aren't ready to get going, are they skipped over? What process do they have to take? I'm working on that part of the story when I check back in on Fox 4 News at 10 o'clock. But for now, live in Punta Gorda, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
All right, Colton, thank you. Well, with Hurricane Ian, many of us have probably already exhausted all of our hurricane supplies. Shari, I actually finished my last can of baked beans a couple of weeks ago.
I was going to say, some of us might still have our hurricane snacks, but
no,
not
definitely
you.
not us, no.
And now with June 1st quickly approaching, it is literally next Thursday. It is time to replenish your baked beans or whatever it is, just in time as well for Florida's disaster preparedness tax holiday. So the disaster preparedness tax holiday, it starts tomorrow and it runs through June 9th with a list of things tax-free to get you ready for the 2023 hurricane season. And despite that hurricane fatigue that we are pretty much all dealing with, you do want to be prepared. So we went to a local hardware store and spoke to them about how they're stocking up to help you out.
What's on the tax-free items are like battery backups for your flashlights and emergency warning systems like the weather radio. We have the nuts and bolts here for your shutters, and we have propane for your burners and cookers. Anything you need to tape down, we have duct tape here for it. So, I mean, we have a whole variety of different products.
All right, so we're talking about things like flashlights, lanterns under $40, generators, even tarps, ground anchors. So, I mean, tarps are a huge deal. People might want to supply on, not just for next season, but for right now.
And also, back to the generators.
Yeah.
So, up to $3,000 for generators. But I do want to say this as well, and it's kind of a PSA. If you do get a generator, just make sure you get a carbon monoxide detector as well.
There you go.
Also, tax-free this weekend through June 9th. But yes, for those of you still dealing with roof damage, absolutely. It's going to be a whole different ball game in terms of our preparation this year when it comes to getting yet more tarps that we will likely need, unfortunately, through much of hurricane season. Very heavy rain continuing to fall here across southwest Florida. Nothing strong, nothing severe, but that rainfall, it is accumulating anywhere from 1 to 3 inches right now across southwest Florida, also causing some slowdowns. Here we are right now in Charlotte County from between Bayshore up to Tucker's Grade. This is what it looks like right now on I-75. And let's take another perspective from Cape Coral right atop our studios. That rain, it is falling down. We are dealing with widespread rain currently across Cape Coral. So At this point, again, it's not heavy, it's not strong, it's just consistent, and at this point, just kind of problematic. If you have any outdoor plans for the next couple of hours, you're going to be dealing with this, not just the heavy rain, but also some embedded lightning strikes as well. So right there is Pine Island Road stretching back toward Matlacha, some of that light to moderate rain, more of the consistent rain now to the south of Pine Island Road. So heading down towards, say, Cape Coral Parkway, starting to see that more consistent rain. Meanwhile, up toward Babcock Ranch, seeing that light to moderate rain becoming a bit more intensive. Also a cloud to ground lightning strike here in the last few moments. Up into Charlotte County, across the Cape Hayes Peninsula, Rotunda stretching up into Inglewood, seeing those areas of rain that are inevitably causing some slowdowns. Port Charlotte, some improvements temporarily, but you have more wet weather making its way your direction from the Murdoch area. Punta Gorda, especially to the east of Punta Gorda, we continue to see that moderate rainfall. And same story across all of Glades. Look at this. It is just nothing but yellow at this point because of that consistent moderate rainfall from Moorhaven down to Clewiston, across Hendry County, and over on Immokalee. We continue to monitor this thunderstorm right here as it's working its way down toward Harker. So Harker, I know it's already raining, but that intensity is going to be picking up in short order as that stronger cell works its way your direction. As for Naples, North Naples, we are starting to dry out there. Those showers down toward Marco a bit more isolated. So rain chances for the next couple of hours staying high, but as soon as that sun sets, those rain probabilities will be dropping dramatically. So let's take you through your weekend hour by hour. Much drier air building in this weekend. That means your rain chances tomorrow nowhere close to where they have been for the last couple of days. So looking ahead to tomorrow, look at this. That line hugging the 0% probability. I have tomorrow's rain chances at just 20%. Could see an isolated rain shower in the afternoon, but that's about it. Showers through the entire weekend, Saturday, Sunday, even into Memorial Day, staying minimal. Looking ahead to your Sunday, again, just a 20% rain chance in the mix through the afternoon into the evening. It's not until the middle part of next week that our classic rainy season pattern will return. So once we get through this round of rain tonight, we will be seeing much drier conditions over your Memorial Day weekend. For your Saturday, highs around 88 degrees. Again, a 20% rain chance expected. Same story for Sunday, mostly sunny skies, staying mainly dry, heading up toward 90. And then looking ahead to Memorial Day, mostly sunny as well, and those temperatures staying quite warm indeed in the lower 90s. So if you're heading off to the beach, here's what you can expect. Boca Grande, Captiva, lots of sunshine, highs in the lower 80s. Sanibel looking for a high around 84 degrees. Naples, Marco Island, we'll see highs there around 87. 7-day forecast showing off quiet conditions through your holiday weekend. Then, as we look ahead to next week, those rain probabilities go back up starting on Wednesday.
Well, we appreciate you trusting us here on Fox 4 News at 6, and hopefully you were paying close attention when Katie was showing you that weather. Be careful while you're out traveling this evening.
But the rain chances go down throughout your Memorial Day weekend. We thank you so much again for joining us for Fox 4 News at 6. Be sure to join me back here, Fox 4 News at 10. In the meantime, we do want to thank everyone who for their service as we remember those lives lost in Memorial Day. Have a good night.
A new plan in D.C. to target anti-Semitism. The Biden administration's four-part plan to make the community safer. But will it help solve hate crimes here in Florida? Fox 4 investigates. And as the governor prepares to take a nationwide campaign into high gear, Floridians are looking at his current partner, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, and how she could step in and play a pivotal role while the governor hits the road. Plus, rent in Cape Coral is only getting worse, taking a new #1 spot tonight. Tonight, Fox 4 going in depth on the rental concerns in Southwest Florida for you.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6 as we're kicking off Memorial Day weekend. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I'm Shari Armstrong.
And silence. Silence is complicity. And it cannot remain silent. I will not remain silent. You should not either.
For the first time in history, the White House is releasing a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism and hate. Tonight, Fox 4 Investigates is digging into the comprehensive plan, which calls on the entire society to combat hate.
So President Biden's plan consists of 4 main goals. They're right here. The first is to increase awareness of the threat facing Jewish communities in our country. The second is to improve safety and security. Third on the list, reverse normalization of anti-Semitism. And he says number 4 is to build community solidarity.
Now, investigative reporter Ryan Kruger joining us live in studio after months of reporting on the state of hate here in the Sunshine State. And Ryan, you have uncovered Florida has some of the highest rates of hate crimes here.
Yeah, the Anti-Defamation League says that the Sunshine State has the 4th most